What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Bear With Us podcast. I am Frank. Joined with me is Nas. Happy Valentine's Day, Nas. What's up, man?
Hey, shout out to my bro. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday, you old bastard.
Nice. Happy birthday,
He's,
bro,
his
Nas.
name, yeah, his name's Pervez. He is 39 today.
Oh, man.
Yeah, tough break for that guy.
Yeah, 40s fucking inching up,
40's
baby.
around the corner, baby.
Yeah,
That's the suck.
that is hilarious. Any Valentine's Day plans once we're done with this?
I got a couple things lined up for the lady at home. Yeah, we're excited. We're excited to hang out. It's been a busy time in the Teacher World Conference week for this guy, so not a lot of at home time. But I'm excited to see her tonight. What about you?
Nice. Yeah, no, I mean nothing nothing crazy. We usually have to do things on weekends because we have to include the kids as well.
Right.
But yeah, I made a little run today, got some, chocolates and things, and they're all like there's a little stuffed animal. The kids have already stolen the stuffed animal and the balloons. The wife isn't a flower gal, so had to, leave those at the store. But yeah, nothing crazy. Should be an easy one. And this weekend, I don't know, we're doing it's always kid centric, like children's museum or some shit. I don't know what the hell we're doing. I just go along with it.
That's romantic.
Yeah, they've become extremely romantic. It seemed to be great. Anyway, there was the biggest game of the 2023/2024 NFL season that was just played this past Sunday. And we have some takes. I don't forecast either of us, and this is for the listeners, really diving into the X's and O's of the game. I'm sort of already past it. I think there's prevailing thoughts that we have. I think there are even what is the future of these teams and what should happen. So I think it's going to make for a great conversation. Nas, I think we can sort of freestyle. I don't know if there's any points that you want to bring up first, but where's your head at right now, a few days removed from the Super Bowl?
I felt like those teams were pretty even. I thought the game plan that the Niners came out with was pretty awesome. And I thought the coaching, I thought there were mistakes on both ends. I thought there was good coaching on both ends. The game-changing plays was a Lovie Smith special, came down to special teams, that third phase that he always talked about. And it really did feel that way. That punt return where that ball hits the ankle of a dude trying to keep the gunner off the receiver is so what a break. That's really nobody's fault that went the Chiefs' way. How often does that actually really happen? And then the block point after, both breaks of the game that are super rare that went the Chiefs' way, and and then it let you give Mahomes the ball at the end of the game. I think we all know what's going to happen at this point.
Yeah, again, I think this whole playoff run is further proof of my thought that Patrick Mahomes is the Tom Brady of this era and the Chiefs are the Patriots, because just like you said, because there was a decent amount of luck involved, just like there is with any singular championship. But when there's a dynasty, it's, hey, the gunner, it hit the ball hit the gunner's ankle and they recovered it. Blocked field goals, little calls along the way that may just go your way. I mean, it's just these little things. And the other thing was too, this one in particular reminded me so much of when the Patriots beat the Rams, because a lot of parallels. Rams were obviously more talented. At that point, they may have even had the better quarterback, but Tom wound up being Tom. So, but that, at that point, maybe. But I remember the prevailing thought was, the secondary was we're going to make the refs beat us. We're going to hold, we're going to fucking do everything that we can to make sure that these elite receivers don't beat us, and the refs are going to swallow the whistle because this is the fucking Super Bowl and they don't want to be the main attraction. And when I was watching that game, I thought both teams, but more so the Chiefs, got away with some holds, particularly, in the second half on the offensive line. But again, that to me is strategy. I know people get mad at it and show clips later, but okay, then have the refs throw 5 flags in a row and see how that's going to be taken as well. You know what I mean? Because there was also a call. Was that the fourth quarter or overtime? That holding call on the Chiefs defense that I thought was fucking atrocious. It was you have to let the boys play in these situations, and I love when a team just leans into it. Fuck it, we will hold. Call me on it. But again, just that parallel with the Patriots, it was this just felt like it. And ultimately, final point there for me is what you just said. You give the ball back to Pat Mahomes. Was there even a fucking inkling of doubt in your mind? Probably even before Pat Mahomes had the ball, but in overtime or at any point in the game that Pat Mahomes was getting it done.
I mean, literally, when that extra point for the Niners got blocked, I just like literally, I dropped my head and I was like, all right, like we all know how this is going to play out now. And if the Niners are up 4 in that position where the Chiefs have to score to tie the game, which it ended up being a 3-point lead, so they could settle for a field goal and take the game into OT if they needed to. And instead, it was a 3. Instead, it should have been a 4-point game. And I don't know if the Chiefs score in that scenario. Like, I can't guarantee it. And then you just felt like this game reminded me so much of the Pacers Bulls Eastern Conference Finals, where like the will of one great team kind of overtook the will of another really good team. The Niners were up for this game. They did not lose this game. Any narrative that says Shanahan lost this game, I couldn't disagree more. And if you're a Niner fan and you're not sure about Shanahan, we talked about this, like, you do not need to doubt this guy. This guy is in his mid-40s. He is going to be around. He is Andy Reid reincarnated. He is going to win his titles. And that's kind of where my head's at in terms of like how I felt about that game. That extra point literally sealed it for me. It being blocked, okay, Chiefs are probably going to win this game now.
Yeah,
and I just like kind of accepted that before it happened.
No, same. I mean, it was like, I think even before, I forgot what the play it was before that for me, where I was like, there's no. Maybe it wasn't a singular play. I just remember thinking like, the Niners are letting the inferior overall team stick around way too much, and they have the better quarterback. This is not going to end well for them. That was like my prevailing thought, because thinking of how well that defense played in the first half, and what did they go into halftime? It was
10-0,
10-3, I think. Yeah, and I was like, if you just took away the scoreboard, you would think the Niners were up by 20, and it just wasn't enough. So, but no, I think
they were moving the ball, but to the Chiefs' credit, like they got a dude who doesn't fumble the ball to fumble the ball. Like, the Chiefs defense, like I feel like a lot of people are like saying, oh, the Niners should have been up way more, but it's like the Chiefs defense also played really well in this game. And like you said, they were playing hard and they were playing physical, and they put it on the refs, and the refs weren't going to do anything about it. And to their credit, they knew that was going to happen, and they played that way. So I think that I in no way do I think the Niners lost this game. I feel like the Chiefs won this game.
Agreed. No, I totally agree. And to go off of one of the other points as well, with Shanahan being sort of this era's Andy Reid, I think a lot of people, it's like super recency bias. Andy Reid, a lot of this was said about him in Philly. A lot of it was where he can't win the big games. I mean, he made it to 4 straight NFC championships, lost a Super Bowl that year with Terrell Owens. And it was just, he just can't do certain things. And it's just not, sometimes it is what it is. It's circumstance. It takes a little bit of luck. And I think a lot of people don't realize or don't know or just haven't put together. It took Andy 20 years to get a ring. 20 years in Patrick Mahomes.
Took him a long time. A lot of that is like finding the right coordinator. I mean, also Mahomes handles a lot of the clock management stuff. Like that doesn't fall on Andy anymore.
Yep.
Kyle is so embedded in the offense, and Purdy is. We forget. It's so funny how people want to judge Purdy. If this was any other second-year quarterback making it to the Super Bowl, people would be thrilled with the way he performed throughout this playoffs. And in the Super Bowl, he played well enough to win. I don't know why the last draft pick is getting graded on a harder scale. Like I side tangent in there, and I apologize for that, but it just kind of it kind of irked me that like Purdy's not actually getting enough credit for where he is as a second-year quarterback prospect. He played well enough to win this game.
He did,
and because he is so young, Kyle is responsible for a lot of shit. He is not delegating responsibility the way Andy is able to. Let's just face it.
No, it's funny that you said that because that was really my only point when it came to Kyle Shanahan was I'm super curious to see because that's my only take. It's not he needs to be fired. He can't win the big one. Will he delegate some of the play calling stuff? Maybe even for like a half a year, a full year. I mean, because we've seen Andy Reid. Andy Reid did this as well. And it wasn't always full. Like Eric Bieniemy has called plays in his tenure there. Matt Nagy, prior to being the Bears coach, called like 4 or 5 games. Like he's done this before. And I'm not sure what happened in Philly, but I do think he did the same exact thing in Philly a few times. And when he talks about it, it's, one, I know he likes to get his guys experience and set them up for the next level, but it's also, he was honest in saying, I need to learn how to manage games. I get too caught up in this. I'm curious to see if Shanahan would do the same. But to your Purdy point, I agree with everything. I will say, I think people get annoyed, and it's not Purdy's fault. It's just the way the media is right now. They're ready to anoint him like top 5, top this, and it's like, can we just slow down and let things happen? I do think that's where a lot of the feedback comes from, but where I was most impressed, because he didn't have a bad game. As a matter of fact, I thought he had a really good game. He was on par with Mahomes for most of it. I think the fourth quarter and beyond is when you start to see that separation. But where I was most impressed was he was not fazed by the moment whatsoever. Like he missed a few throws, but everyone misses a few throws. I don't do that.
Throws. He made a couple dimes. He was the most ready dude on the offense. McCaffrey's fumbling. Debo's not winning one-on-ones.
I mean, no one was. That secondary dude.
Jawan and McLeod and all these dudes. The big boys were on that team. Were not set up to succeed, and he played through that. Like,
yep,
I was thoroughly impressed with Brock.
It was, which also in turn made me very impressed with what Spagnuolo did. Mm-hmm. I thought, let me not say I thought, there was a scenario, like one of the scenarios in which I saw the Chiefs winning this game was like they just overwhelmed Purdy with these exotic blitzes, and it's like an ugly blowout that we're all bored of by the middle of the third quarter. But Spags, which I think is in favor of Purdy, was like, we can't do that. This guy's too good to do that. It's too good to just employ that type of game plan. He's going to, exploit it a little bit too much. But there was like 2 blitzes in that second half, dude, that Spags drew up that were, usually you have some inkling of like, okay, corner maybe blitzing here. I mean, disguised to fucking perfection.
Truly.
And the thing was, is like Purdy.
Free runners.
I know, but the thing, and the thing was with them was, I believe it was the second one that got batted down. Purdy didn't make the wrong decision. It was just the free blitzer just made an insane play, getting his hands up and jumping at the last set. Like, so Purdy was like diagnosing these, even though they were insanely disguised. But the other thing with that is Purdy's big thing right now is I think we all agree right now he's a game manager. So he wants to get the ball to his playmakers, let them do what they do. But the thing is, he's getting graded on a negative scale for that. A lot of young quarterbacks should be doing that. They should be game managers and learning how to do that. And then you can take it to that next level to be the game changer.
100%. And he's gonna I think Kyle really likes him, and I think they are gonna develop a relationship where Brock gets more responsibility at the line, being more responsible for the time management, so Kyle can take a step back and really take the game look at the game on a bigger scale with the bigger picture. I was hearing something about the Chiefs where they were practicing 2-point plays, and for the audience, 2-point plays doesn't mean necessarily 2-point conversions. We're talking do or die short yardage plays for all Thursday and Friday. That's all the offense worked on, because they decided that this matchup was so even that there was going to be a scenario where they were going to have to make drives that were do or die, and that they were going to be working with an extra down, and they were going to need plays that got conversions. And it's like Andy's ability to step back and realize that and give some responsibility to Nagy so he could do the install properly. Like that's all part of this. And Kyle is so hands-on. Kyle's mindset kind of reminds me of young Peyton Manning. Young Peyton Manning just wanting his hands and to be in control of every single little thing and not willing to delegate enough. And I think Kyle eventually will get there. I mean, yeah, so much time left for that guy, and I have no doubt that he will, but I think that's where he's at right now.
I totally agree. And finishing with the last thing about Purdy is, with that being his play style, that's what made me very impressed with Spagnuolo as well. But I mean, look at the numbers for Kittle. It was like 4 yards or 6 yards. Ayuk, I don't even know if he was on the fucking stat sheet.
Yeah, he had like 3 catches, I think.
Yeah, and Debo was like 3 for 20. I mean, like
Debo had 11 targets and 3 catches.
I know that
Crazy.
secondary played out of their mind. Spagnola's game plan was phenomenal. And this is where I think you fall short a little bit right now with Purdy. Not his fault. He's a second-year player. Regardless, he was a first-round pick or a seventh-round pick. You're usually in this range when you're developing, in that development stage. He was taking what Spags was giving him, and it played into Spags' hand more times than not because they were playing to not let there be any explosive plays. There were no explode. The only one was when Christian McCaffrey broke off that one run, and he, which I thought he would have taken it to the house. I feel like anyone else, he would have taken that to the house. He started to hit that explosion, but they clearly game planned to swarm tackle, to like know where the open pockets on defense were, because Brock was going to also identify that. Like Spags' game plan was so like, I know what he's going to do, so I'm going to show him something so he does it, so he can't do the thing that would actually beat this defense, and it was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the only thing that separated him and Wilkes in this whole matchup, because I think Wilkes did everything correct for about 3/4 in this game. The San Francisco D, man, they came to play, and that was the most beat up I saw Mahomes like get in a game. He got the shit kicked out of him. Didn't matter like when it got down, because at the end of the game, when it gets tight like that, like you've been playing for 4.5 hours. You're just emotion wise, physically, you're just tired. And Mahomes just like, he just kind of wears you out.
Yep.
There's so much pressure he's putting on you all the time. Okay, where's his first read? Okay, the play's broken. What's he doing right now? How are we containing him? Like, you're constantly thinking about all these different facets with him for 4 or 5 hours. Like, it gets tiring.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think the only mistakes that I thought Wilkes made were those blitzes in the fourth quarter and overtime. I get it. You want to be aggressive, but I mean, they just have so many blitz beaters, and they weren't exactly disguised either. Like that crossing route on 3rd and 4 that he hit. I don't even remember who it was now. Was it Rashee Rice? It went for like 20, and it was like, dude, like that was that's elementary for Mahomes at this point. But your overall point is where I'm at with the Chiefs, man. Like, they remind me so much of just a master boxer. I mean, you think of someone like Floyd Mayweather, who, you might lose the first couple of rounds, but it's just this methodical approach of like, here's my game plan, here's how I break you down, here's how I wear you out, and I get a late stoppage, or I go to the cards and I win 116 to 112. Like, it's just, they're just in this mode where it's like, you can't, they're just tough to beat because situationally, they're phenomenal. They see things before they happen. They're not going to get spooked because they're down at halftime. Right. Like, it's absurd.
It's crazy. It's very Andre Ward.
Yeah.
And like, it's just like, okay, let me just feel you out. Like what LeBron did for like a stretch there. Just like, especially game ones of series. Like LeBron's lost like quite a few game ones of series, and everyone fucking flips out about how, oh, is this like, it is like, are the Cavs in trouble? Are the Heat in trouble? And it's like, no, like LeBron does this shit. He wants to see how you're playing him, and then he will figure it out. And Mahomes does the same thing within one game.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And I think the only other thought game-wise, well, I guess it's more of a prevailing thought, is the overtime stuff. The Niners seem to be a lot more confused as to what the rules were than the Chiefs, and I think that goes to your overall point of just the delegation of things. Like, your fingerprints are on so much that when you're hearing sort of what the game plan was and what was happening with Shanahan versus like the Chiefs, they were like, oh, we had extensive meetings about overtime these 2 weeks. Like, we were more than prepared for this moment.
I also like, okay, so where do you stand on the overtime decision to take the ball?
I've heard both sides, and honestly, I don't know if one is better than the other, because I think Kyle Shanahan's explanation is just as good as saying I get to use the 4 down. Like,
I agree.
I don't think there is an advantage either way, if I'm being honest.
When you name all of the possible statistical scenarios of field goal, no score, touchdown, like, that's a lot of scenarios where you're going to get the ball back.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, if we just do our job when we receive the ball, there is a good chance, a reasonable chance, we're going to get this ball back. I don't think there was anything wrong with and the only thing that what I thought was blown up a little too much was, if he knew it, that's all that really fucking matters.
Yeah.
If Kyle knows what the situation is and is prepared for it, who the fuck cares if the players don't really know that rule that well? It's not that hard to comprehend. It's like, oh, okay, if we score a touchdown, we're still playing defense, so let's just relax if that happens. That's always the fucking say. Like, that's always the say.
Well, I thought the time where I thought it reared its ugly head, because I agree with you, but what was the actual game scoring touchdown. It looked like the Niners thought they were just gonna let the ball run out and like the next quarter was starting, or like they didn't have this. So maybe it wasn't like, it was situational in a different way. The Chiefs completely caught them off guard with snapping that ball. I think they thought they were going to let it run out and lose, or go, I don't know, whatever they thought, but that was the easiest completion of the whole game.
They were like lulled.
They were lulled, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the only place I thought it hit. But yeah, the decision itself, I've heard both sides. You can go for it on all 4 downs if you get it second. You can also do that if you're fucking Dan Campbell would have went for it on 4th down and if he got the ball first. Like, what do we?
100%. Yeah.
So I thought that debate was a little silly, to be honest.
I agree. Okay, the end of 4th quarter decision to take before Mahomes gets the game tying field goal. Didn't the Niners score a field goal before regulation ended to go up 19-16?
Yeah, fuck.
Do I have that wrong? It was 16-13. It should have been 17-13. So they missed the field goal. Mahomes scored the field goal. They score another field goal. Mahomes sends into OT, goes into OT at 19-19.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the final score ends up being 36-20 or 26-22.
25-22. They didn't kick the
25-22. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there was a 4th down in the red zone that the Niners were presented with instead of taking the field goal there. What do you think they should have done? Do you think taking that last field goal is that a problem for you, or do you think because Mahomes has the ball, is going to have the ball with 1:50 left?
What do you think? You 100% take the field goal there.
You think so?
I think you do. 4th and 5 because it's a 53-yarder, so you have the 35. I'm taking the field goal. I think they made the correct decision. Because at the very least you have to give your defense a chance. You can't. Yeah, I think you have to kick the field goal, because if you go for it, you don't have it. They're almost at midfield at that point. We already saw he just broke the record. What was it, a 57-yarder? Like that's 2 first downs and you're donezo.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. If they had decided to go for it in that instance, I don't think I would judge them for it.
I wouldn't have been upset. I do think it would have gone. That would have been uncharacteristic for Kyle, because he does
100%.
You know what I mean? So maybe that's leading my answer, because I've had my qualms with him not going for it on 4th and short in the past. This was 4th and almost intermediate. It's a little bit different, and given the circumstances, I agreed with it. But it would have, that to me honestly may have been a sign of panic if he went for it.
I know, but it's just like when that fucker is on the other side.
I know.
It's just like,
I know.
If we can just milk this clock a little bit more,
then that's a fair take too. I wouldn't have been upset either way, but I guess the other thing that's clouding my judgment is, like, unless you milked it to literally zeros on the clock, Mahomes was winning that fucking game, dude. Like,
yeah, that fucking guy. That scumbag. That zone read where he pulls it and runs for 20, like,
absurd.
I felt so bad for Bosa, because like he's not a dumbass. He knows what the play is, like. And he is just charging hard at the running. He's just charging hard at Pacheco, and Mahomes just gets that free lane for it. No one's even looking at him for like 5-10 yards.
I know.
And it's just like, I felt bad, because it's like that wasn't in the game plan, and it's like he's doing his best. He played a great game. Bosa did.
He did.
And in that moment, he just kind of looks like a schmuck. But it's not really his fault.
But both edges contain so fucking well. Like they could have gotten more pressure on Mahomes if they were taking inside routes to on their pass rushes, and they just decided not to. It was phenomenal. Their contain and their discipline on the edges. It was truly impressive to see, because given how methodical and dink and dunk and just, they were the Chiefs of what we've seen this whole year. Like, given how well they executed that, for them edges to stay that disciplined the whole game was very impressive.
Really was. I'm not gonna lie. I know Steve Wilkes got fired, but I do think someone should hire him.
Oh, yeah.
I know it was a tough break for him, and he didn't look great, and Spags outcoached the shit out of him. But I still think Wilkes is a good coach, and
I agree.
I hope he finds a landing spot. you want to talk about how this relates to, because we're always thinking Bears, how this relates to Bears. That what about the game what got you to think about where the Bears should go with this?
Yeah, I think we dive right into that. I mean, I had some thoughts with the Bears hat on ever since the Baltimore game against the Chiefs. Because to me, my prevailing thing was one of the reasons why, especially if the Bears didn't have the first pick, I would be pointing to Lamar to be like, look, you can build around someone like this, because Lamar isn't a timing-based quarterback either. Like, he doesn't play within an offense. It's a lot of scrambling. It's a lot of running. And you can get pretty far with that. But that game against the Chiefs just sort of showed that limitations. Granted, the game plan should have been better and could have been better, but there were still limitations when it was time for him to actually throw the ball. He held the ball too long. He didn't know what he was seeing. He was seeing ghosts. The exotic looks just, and I think the apples to apples comparison for Fields is Lamar. Even if you were to continue to build around him, good offensive line, good run game, pretty good receivers. Then on the flip side, you see this team who, I mean, the receivers are pedestrian at best. Obviously, one of the greatest tight ends of all time. They have a weapon, which, I mean, maybe not apples to apples, but look at what the Bears have now. They had one and a half. Cole Kmet was pretty good, but like, they had one dude in DJ Moore. Just like the Chiefs have one dude in Travis Kelce. And it was just like, again, it's no knock. I never want to make it seem it's a negative to Justin, because I still do believe that whether it's us or someone else could build around him and make it really far in this league. But again, with the circumstances, luck, whatever, you could probably get a bowl maybe. But you just set yourself up when you have that ceiling of a quarterback. And I hate that Caleb, it's his comp. He plays a lot like him, so it is what it is. But that is his ceiling. His ceiling is that. I think he has the natural attributes and things, the arm, the legs, the extending of plays. He's going to have to get there with reps to be what we're talking about, that Floyd Mayweather, Andre Ward sort of methodical, give what they take me. I can't be the superhero every play. Mahomes had to learn that as well. But those two things, the Baltimore Chiefs game and the Super Bowl, was like, we got to go. We got to go, Caleb. If there was any doubt in my mind, if there was any, or any thought of the other thing, keeping Fields, it would have been gone with those games. Did you have similar thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think throughout the playoffs, every team faced like a do or die moment, and the do or die moment came down to a drop back pass game. And having the ability to run feels essential, and it feels essential in a way where it's like the last thing you add to what a great QB can do, and it felt like, well, we don't know if Justin can do this. We don't even know if Justin's close to doing this, because the coaching was so bad that we really don't know. And it's like, there's no choice. There is, like, this isn't even a choice anymore. It is Caleb. Caleb's the only answer for a number of reasons. And this just kind of, the whole playoff run just kind of solidified that for me. Like,
yeah,
you got to be able to make the key plays from the pocket, whether it's to maintain possession, whether it's to put points on the board, or supplement the running game if someone has just decided to phase it out of your game plan entirely, which, like, I don't think McCaffrey as a runner was like 22 for 80 yards. Like, he was pretty bottled up. There wasn't a lot going on from an explosion standpoint. And same thing with Pacheco. So, yeah, I think this only highlighted one thing, and that Caleb is the only option. There really isn't another.
Yeah, I mean, just that skill set. I don't want to say specifically for Caleb because we don't know it yet, but that skill set has the opportunity to lift certain boats. I mean, again, MVS, I think Rashee Rice is a fine receiver. I like him a lot, but like everyone else,
I think he'll be good. He's probably got a couple Pro Bowl seasons in his future.
Absolutely, but everyone else that he's had to, Justin Watson, I make him play like he's Fields. Jesus, Mahomes is uplifting those boats right now. Now, my only take with that is they can't do that for too much longer. They need to get this guy a Tyreek Hill-esque weapon there again. Like, this is getting ridiculous. Like, at this point, you're like beating the game on New Game Plus. Like, you gotta help the guy out a little bit. But yeah, you have to take a shot on that ceiling. and hope, because there's always a level of hope involved in there. You have to hope that he can put the rest of the game together in a way that Mahomes or close to it did, because the physical talent, ceiling wise, is just higher than Field. Throwing the football anyway, no one will ever reach the ceiling. Maybe not ever, but right now, a Fields running. He's one of the best running quarterbacks of all time. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Speaking of Williams and Fields, I think the last thing that we can touch on before we get out of here, really a couple of things, because the Pittsburgh trade is looming. We can get to that, but there's been these weird reports, which is probably Poles. He's just like doing the little puppeteer thing. But it's an interesting conversation for content creation wise purposes. They're talking. Some people are saying it's a possibility that the Bears draft Caleb and still keep Justin Fields. Now, that's been the extent of the report. So what that sounds like to me is maybe you sit Caleb for a little while and you continue to do. But other people have taken it like, well, could like Justin play the Taysom Hill role? Could Justin do a little bit of everything and like trick plays added to certain arsenals and everything? What is your take on that situation?
The way I read the report was that Bears have had discussed the scenario of Justin still being in the building when they draft Caleb, which I think is a very natural, normal conversation to have. Okay, let's just say we are not getting the offer that we want for Justin, and we think that we want to hold out. Like, let's just say there's a scenario that just makes us hold out. What does that look like? And I honestly think that conversation was probably just like a brainstorming, mapping out, okay, what does the scenario look like? I don't think that's something they're actually considering. And when you're making big decisions, you do need to map out all scenarios. I think that scenario has already been X'd out. There's no chance of it happening. I don't think it would be a healthy scenario for Justin. I think everybody in that locker room, including the front office, loves Justin. I don't think they would want to do that to him. I think that would hurt his development even more, to be honest. I don't think that's what they want to do for that guy. I think they're going to try to move him and put him in a situation where he can prosper. And I would feel really shitty for Justin if that's what we did, to be honest.
I agree.
For Caleb, I honestly I don't hate the idea of bringing a veteran in and letting him sit a little bit if we're feeling like he's behind. That's fine. But if it were Justin specifically, I'd feel like that's pretty shitty.
No, I totally agree. And I will actually further that and say that this front office owes him to not do him something that way. If they can, and they're smart people. I think Poles is very smart. I think he knows this, that this was a product, Justin Fields, that is of a complete teardown in a scenario in which, just like you noted earlier, like there's some things we don't even know if he can or can't do yet. And that's unfortunate. Some of it's just not his fault. It's just what the situation was. But I thought Cole Kmet said it perfectly. Like, it's the NFL. Sometimes things aren't fair, and it is what it is. We just got to move on and wish people the best. Which makes me think he knows that the Bears are drafting Caleb Williams. But with that said, they have to know that. They have to know that he was a innocent bystander of circumstances to a large degree. And I think they owe him to, not only they owe themselves to get draft capital that they can, but to set him up in a situation where he can thrive somewhere and be good. I don't think there's any Bears fan in the world, regardless of whether they want to move on from Justin or not, that wishes him ill will wherever he goes next. If it's Pittsburgh, if it's Atlanta, I think we're all going to be rooting for the guy until he plays the Bears, and obviously love for him to have a bad game. But, he has so much cachet whether or not you want to move on from him. Everyone loves the guy. He's a hard worker. He has swag. He has the aura about him. He's brought fun to Bears football for the first time in I don't know how fucking long. Let's just be objective about it. So I agree. I agree with you. And again, I just think he's owed that. I think he's owed that level of respect to be set up for success in the next venture. But I also think the one thing that I thought you were going to touch on, I think that sort of messes with Caleb as well if he were to still be here and Caleb's here, because now you're like, I mean, human nature takes over at some point. The locker room still loves Justin. If they're both there, that's that's a little weird.
I don't think it's a thing. I think football, especially amongst kind of like basketball. It's like when you are the dude and everybody sees you're the dude, people acquiesce naturally.
Oh, agreed.
You know, it's like, and Caleb's got those attributes that Justin does, and he's a hard worker and he's got the arm talent. It's kind of like the reason, like people say, like the Patriots cut Cam when Mac was like officially the starter because like Cam didn't have it anymore. And that was true, but those players loved Cam and like his swagger and stuff. So I see the scenario of like why having Justin there while Caleb's there could be a thing. It's like that's our guy. But ultimately, when you are the dude, people recognize it, and the locker room, there are a lot people in the locker room, they're professional athletes. They're not stupid. They're gonna see who's better who's better.
Oh, absolutely.
Even if Justin's their guy, you know, they will accommodate. They will adjust. I think from Caleb's perspective, it's less hurtful to his development and like his psyche, as opposed to Justin, where I think that would be shitty.
No, 100%. I guess I should clarify because I agree with what you said. I just mean in terms of them having a friendship with Justin, they're gonna know. You're right. They're gonna know who's the better guy, which probably will be
Right.
Caleb. And if they were to have like a training camp battle, but I would feel a way like if one of my coworkers got done dirty, but like
Right.
got kept around, and I'd be like, that's.
Yeah,
You know, do I bring
Yeah,
that to the negotiation table when it's my turn for it?
totally? Yeah, like towards the
could,
franchise, be like, yeah, well, the way you handle my boy Justin,
That's what I mean.
fucked up.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. So,
Yeah, okay, no, yeah, that makes total sense.
but then the other thing was like the reason why I was very emphatic about the Bears owing Justin a good destination, a place for him to go, even if it means just like you're competing with another quarterback, like that is what. But like just somewhere, you know, that he's in have a nice landing spot. I was very strong on that because I don't want anyone exploring what he would look like in a Taysom Hill role. I want him to go and be a quarterback somewhere. And if that's like, if he fails elsewhere or a couple of different places and then he wants to like keep his NFL career alive and do something, fine, completely okay. But I just don't think we gave him good enough chance to show the type of quarterback he can grow and become with what we had around him. So I would love for him to get that opportunity. Again, I think the two scenarios that I'm thinking of that benefit both are Atlanta. They have a second round pick that maybe they can throw. Oh, well, actually three. Because I think my leading contender for a trade right now is some sort of package of Fields and 9 to move up to 3. That'd be fucking awesome. Or just 120 and we give like a third with Justin. You know what I mean? I mean, something like that. Like that. That's to Pittsburgh. So I think all those landing spots would be solid for him.
I would love to see him in Pittsburgh. I think, you know, Arthur Smith he's kind of got a bad rap for what happened in Atlanta, but I think that guy knows how to coach offense. And I would love to see him paired with Justin. I think he could be a Tannehill 2.0.
I think so. I think so too. You think about how play action heavy that they were in Tennessee and how much they ran the ball and relied on Derrick Henry. That's a.
I mean, how many times do you see AJ Brown just running fucking free in the middle of the field, like making it a very simple throw, and then you add in the X factor of Justin and the athleticism. Like, I think it could be something.
I think so too. I mean,
especially if they get Jalen Warren the ball more than Najee. Yeah,
and I don't hate Jesus, because I don't know what the hell happened to Najee Harris. They have a tight end that's probably a little bit better than Kmet and Pat Freiermuth. I like him a lot. I like Deontay Johnson. I like George Pickens. I feel like there was another guy that emerged last year too. I mean, they're a receiving factory.
Yeah.
Anyone they draft is amazing. But so that particular situation, I think, would be perfect. And Tomlin, just a culture guy. Like, I think he would go in there and fit right in.
Yeah, totally agree. Sorry, can you repeat who the other options were in terms of interested for Justin? Or like
Patriots, Falcons, Pittsburgh. I don't know if anyone else is on that list. Maybe Seattle, because I don't think Geno's back, but I don't know exactly what they want to do with them sort of starting anew with the coaching staff.
Yeah, the Seattle. I think they're going to target Penix heavy.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I could definitely see that being the scenario that plays out.
But he's not a first rounder, is he?
I don't know. I think they could probably get him in the second or the third, to be honest. Like, the injury history is what kind of sways you away from his direction, but can't really argue that the arm talent and accuracy is there. The guy can place the football.
I agree.
Better than most.
I mean, but if you can get him in the second or the third,
you're really cooking. You're really.
I think you're cooking, but then I think that would give you an opportunity to get someone like Justin Fields to be your sure starter at least for 1 year, because then, you know, who I mean, it could be. I feel like worst case scenario, if you're really in love with Penix, it just becomes a Matt Flynn, Russell Wilson scenario. We're like, sorry, Justin, I know we maybe paid you or like traded draft capital, but this guy we think he's better, and it is what it is. So.
Yeah, Denver kind of came to my brain too, but then I looked at their cap situation and it's just frightening.
They're gonna pull a Bears, like totally tear everything down. I think the Waltons tried the whole like let's just pay everyone, and that just doesn't work in the NFL, man. This isn't baseball. Like you can't just get overpay for things and expect it to work. It just doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. It looks like just looking at like the cap hits for like fucking Garrett Bowles. I was just like, oh god.
But who the? I mean, it's pretty accepted that Russ is gone in like March, right? Like that dead cap space or whatever.
Yeah, it sounds like there's gonna be a situation where he's not with the team anymore. We'll see. We'll see if they're gonna cover like part of his salary if they try to trade him or what. But there's still so much left on the deal. It's a $35 million cap hit on this year. I mean, if you don't care about being shitty, I guess it doesn't really matter. But
right,
I would be curious to know what the cap hit going. Oh my god! Like
1 year, it's like 50, isn't it? Like it's not this year. I think it's next year.
Next year. Oh my god! The cap hit next year. The dead cap space, if they had moved on from him this year, was like 86. So
yeah, I remember that number. Yep.
This year, this upcoming year, it's 50 in dead cap.
That's the number. Okay.
But if he's on the roster, the cap hit itself is 55. So they would actually save $6 million by moving him. And then after that, then it becomes a little more tolerable. 31, then 12, then 4. But like 4 years left on this fucking deal, dude.
I know.
Jesus Christ.
I know. I'm curious to see what happens with them. I am, because obviously teams need quarterbacks, but I feel like you have to run such a specific system that they mastered in Seattle to hide his flaws. I mean, fuck, not for nothing. That's a good fit for Arthur Smith. We're talking about Arthur Smith's offense. He could run that Tannehill. He would be better at running that Tannehill. Well, I don't know about this stage of his career, but just like what Russell did well.
Right. I mean, I will. Until I see Russ just not be able to throw a deep ball.
I know.
Like, until like I see it consistently, like he can still do it.
He can do a little something, but I think the biggest problem with him right now is his athleticism is gone. Like, and it's never that he was a phenomenal runner, but what he was able to do on broken plays and extending plays.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was special.
It was really special because I mean, the way people spoke about him, me included, when he was doing that was the way they're speaking about Patrick Mahomes when he does it now. We hadn't 100%. Really seen much of that. It was him and Aaron Rodgers at that point. We were just like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is something like I've never seen before. I think like Big Ben did it, but he was just this like 6'8", fucking 400-pound dude, just like dudes bouncing off. Like that was unreplicable. Like you just can't teach that size.
I mean, Prime McNabb, you definitely saw flashes of that, but like the consistency level and the production level, just fucking crazy from Russ.
Yes. So he doesn't have that, which I think takes a huge element from his game. But you're right. There are things that if you just draw up boot actions and different misdirections to get him out of the pocket, that deep ball's still there. So yeah, we're in for a very interesting offseason, man. I know, historically we've done coach rankings, quarterback tiers and rankings. I know we have some short form content planned for you guys that honestly may even spawn into like some long term or long form content as well. So the offseason's very fun with at the Bear With Us podcast, because we can get as creative as we want to be. Other sports can get involved. Again, like the big thing that I like to do is just scout. Like I'm in a bunch of dynasty leagues, so like top 10 receiver prospects coming out. Usually it's like 5 or 6, however many like quarterbacks there are that I think will be drafted in the first like 4 or 5. Like I'm not gonna fucking get the guy from Colorado State, A&T Tech, and throw him on there. But yeah, running backs become tougher and tougher every year because they're all just the same. But yeah, so we have a lot in store for you guys. Naz, is there anything else we want to touch on this episode before we bounce?
Um, I just want to say, shout out. I just want to say my thoughts and prayers are with the families that were affected at the shooting at the
Oh,
Chiefs parade today. That was pretty fucked up. Not cool. Ruining something that's supposed to be galvanizing and happy, and putting people's lives at risk. That was shit. So my thoughts and prayers are with those families. That's kind of it.
I'm glad you remember that. That completely blinked my mind. Yeah, awful, awful, awful. I mean, I don't want to go too deep on it, but how many more how many more mass shootings need to happen before we get it the fuck together in this country? I know the last I saw was 1 fatal, 9 injured. I don't know if those numbers have been
That's the last
updated.
thing I saw. Yeah.
I also saw multiple shooters. I don't know how accurate or inaccurate that was, but yeah. I mean, it's absurd. It's to a point where if you can avoid being out in public places with a ton of people, do it, because you're risking yourself for things like that. It's absurd. Yeah, glad you remember that, Nas. All right, everybody. Sorry to get off on such a somber note. But thanks for listening. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and if you can on like Apple or Spotify, rate us 5 stars. That will help us with the algorithms. Nas, I don't know if you saw, our YouTube did a little bit of numbers. We're at like 300 and something. I mean, we're growing. We got a few subs off of things. So, the new people who are here, we appreciate you. We're video, we're audio. And again, if there's a place that we are not, let me know. And it's 1 click away on the back end of the thing that I can put it in the RSS feed. So it's not tough at all. And we will talk to you all next week. Later, Nas. Later, everybody.
See ya.